Lucille Ball exposes 9 actresses as evil. For more than 20 years, Lucille Ball dominated television as America's favorite redhead. Her infectious laugh and witty comedy brought joy to millions, making her the most powerful woman in Hollywood history. But behind the affable exterior and pioneering career was a tough businesswoman with a keen eye for character. As the first female head of a major, Studio Lucille not only made people laugh, but also made and broke careers with a word Lucille had no tolerance for pretense or cruelty, says a former Desilu executive who worked with Ball for more than a decade. In her mind, she kept a long list of actresses she considered truly terrible people, women with glamorous public personas who hid what Lucille called pure, icy souls. In her later years, Ball became increasingly candid about the celebrities she had secretly despised throughout her career. Stories she told close friends painted a disturbing picture of beloved icons, the monsters hidden behind their carefully crafted public personas. Most shocking of all, Ball's revelations include a legendary actress who appeared polite and demure in interviews, but was caught by Lucy verbally, abusing a young wardrobe assistant so brutally that she quit the profession altogether, and a TV star whom Ball adored, whom she described as more dangerous than any man in Hollywood, because her suave on-screen appearance was the perfect cover for what Lucy called a lifetime of calculated destruction. These people weren't just difficult or demanding stars. According to Ball, they were the dark, people lurking beneath the fame and talent, the manipulators and destroyers the industry has sheltered for decades. But first we need to understand why the first name on Ball's list is so detestable to her, and the private confrontation that confirms every suspicion Lucy has had about Hollywood's Ice Queen. Why didn't you call me? Who knows? Philadelphia isn't the end of the world. Joan Crawford, the Hollywood queen with cold blood running through her veins. When Joan Crawford made a guest appearance on Harris Lucy in 1971, audiences got to see the graceful Hollywood legend they'd admired for decades with her perfect figure, flawless looks, and polished charm. Crawford was the embodiment of classic Hollywood glamour. But according to multiple Desilu employees, Crawford's off-screen behavior revealed a different person. She was one of the coldest people I've ever met. Ball reportedly told her longtime hairdresser years later, "It was like talking to a beautiful statue that was empty inside. All she had was a facade." There was nothing but tape underneath. Crawford's appearance began causing trouble even before she arrived on set. Her requests included lighting requests so specific that the show's technical director kept a 5-page memo in his files decades later. Everything had to be just right, a former producer recalled. The angle of the chairs, the height of the set markers, even the studio temperature. Exactly 68 degrees, not 67, not 69. When Crawford finally arrived 3 hours before taping, she brought her own makeup team, even though the show had award-winning makeup artists. But what really revealed Crawford's character was the way she treated people differently based on their importance. She almost bowed to Lucy. A backstage worker who was there that day said, "But when a young wardrobe assistant accidentally brought in a dress with barely visible wrinkles, Crawford flew into a rage," according to multiple witnesses. Crawford was so enraged that staff in the hallway were stunned. She allegedly called the assistant a 22-year-old newbie useless and suggested she get a job cleaning bathrooms where standards were clearly not an issue. The young woman ran away in tears, and Crawford demanded that she be fired. Ball's producer refused, creating a tension that lasted throughout the shoot. But the most disturbing aspect of Crawford's appearance wasn't just her treatment of her staff. It was the way she calculated the moment the cameras rolled. She was like a machine pretending to be a woman. One producer recalled, she rehearsed every response, every laugh, every spontaneous moment. None of this was real. During the break, Crawford would immediately stop smiling and sit in statuesque silence, not speaking to anyone. Only to wake up again when the red light came back on. Ball, known for his warm relationship with the crew, was clearly annoyed by Crawford's behavior. After the show, she reportedly told co-star Gail Gordon-Ive performed with department store mannequins, and these have a much more genuine emotional presence. Years later, when Christina Crawford's memoir, Mommy Dearest, revealed Jones' alleged abuse of her adopted children, Ball was unfazed. According to close friends, she simply nodded and said, "I saw the real her in those few hours." I believe Crawford's every word, but if Crawford's cold calculation worries Ball her next enemy, represents something she finds even more troubling. Talent wasted on self-destruction, hurting everyone in its path. Judy Garland, the shining star who left devastation in her wake. This may seem like a shocking addition. After all, Judy Garland is remembered as one of Hollywood's most beloved talents, a vulnerable soul crushed by the ruthlessness of the studio system. Lucille Ball herself spoke publicly of Garland's incredible performing talent. But in private, according to those closest to her, Ball had a more complicated view of Garland, one that acknowledged her genius while also rejecting the devastation. Her behavior caused those around her. Lucy admired Judy's talent, a longtime friend of Ball's revealed. But she was candid about how Judy's unreliability and addiction hurt dozens of innocent people. Lucy once said, "Talent doesn't give you the right to ruin someone else's career." Ball and Garland had known each other since their early days at MGM and clashed repeatedly throughout their careers. While Ball was renowned for her uncompromising professionalism and impeccable reliability, Garland had a reputation for the opposite frequently. Arriving hours late, missing altogether, or arriving too tired to perform. What really bothered Ball was not Garland's inner demons, but how they affected the hard-working people around her, the crew members who waited for her for hours, the producers who faced bankruptcy when she didn't show up, and the lesser-known co-stars whose careers were affected by canceled projects. Lucy once told me about visiting the set where Judy was supposed to be working. A former TV director who worked with Ball in the 1970s recalled, "The crew had been there since 5 a.m. Judy finally showed up at 2 p.m., performed brilliantly for 30 minutes, then declared herself too exhausted to continue. The entire day of filming was canceled." Lucy said the worst part was watching the biennial. Producers fire 3 crew members the next day because the filming had gone over budget. What makes this especially personal for Ball is her own background. She worked her way up from B-movies and radio, overcoming career setbacks through sheer determination and reliability. The idea that someone would waste a greater talent by self-sabotaging is almost a crime to her. Judy was always late, always messy, and people always got fired for it. Ball reportedly said at a private dinner in the late 1970s, and people kept making excuses because every time she showed up she was magical, but the death toll around her was real. This view may seem harsh, but it reflects Ball's core belief about Hollywood that even the greatest stars have a responsibility to the hundreds of the lesser-known people who made their success possible. When Garland died in 1969, Ball publicly expressed her sadness at the loss of such a great talent. According to friends, she saw Garland's story as a tragic example of how addiction not only destroys the addict but also creates ripples of damage that affect countless others. Lucy is not without compassion, her friend explains. She understands that Judy has been hurt by the studio system, but Lucy also refuses to pretend that. It allows Judy to hurt others. While Garland represents talent wasted by self-destruction, Ball's next enemy represents what she finds equally troubling, a calculated artificiality wrapped in European sophistication. Zazia Gabor, the fake beauty on 2 legs, with her seductive looks, distinctive voice, and flirtatious personality. Zazia Gabor was a favorite on the chat show circuit, appearing on countless shows in the 1960s and 1970s. Viewers were treated to a charming, free-spirited personality who often played up her Hungarian roots and marriages for laughs. Ball saw something very different, what she secretly called fake elegance. Lucy had no tolerance for fakes, and Zazia was the fakest of them all. A former screenwriter who worked closely with Ball revealed, "She would say that accent is thick or thin depending on what she wants it to be." Nothing about her was real, from her hair to her jewelry to her name. Ball's dislike stemmed from several encounters with Gabor throughout their careers, including a particularly sensitive incident at a charity event in the late 1960s. According to several witnesses, Gabor arrived covered in diamonds and furs, flaunting her doll-like image for the cameras. Once the cameras were gone, however, Gabor allegedly transformed, yelling at the volunteers demanding special treatment and openly complaining about having to attend the boring event despite being paid for her appearance. Lucy witnessed the entire incident. An attendee, who later worked with Ball, said she saw Zazia seduce photographers, then turn around and treat the volunteers like servants. Lucy later said, "That woman wasn't just acting, she was living a lie and didn't even know the difference." What particularly upset Ball about Gabor was how her behavior affected other women in the industry, at a time when female artists were struggling to be taken seriously as professionals. Ball believed Gabor's entire act of marrying for money, flaunting wealth, and flaunting her European charm reinforced the worst stereotypes about women using sex instead of talent. Lucy built her career on hard work and comedic talent. The former screenwriter explained she resented Gabor for building her career on winking and marrying rich men. Ball's assessment seemed to be vindicated in 1989, years after her death, when Gabor was arrested for slapping a police officer in Beverly Hills, revealing that the diva's fiery personality was not just an act, but a reflection of self-righteousness. While Gabor's calculating demeanor unnerved Ball, her next difficult colleague represented something she found even more disturbing: a genuine talent destroyed by uncontrollable rage. Bette Davis, a talent that couldn't contain her own ruthlessness. Bette Davis was undoubtedly one of the greatest actresses of Hollywood's golden age, with a career that spanned decades and performances that defined American cinema. Her intensity on screen was legendary, but according to those who knew Lucille Ball, that intensity paled in comparison to Davis's off-screen demeanor. Lucille admired Bette's talent, a longtime friend of Ball's revealed, but she often said that Bette Davis could melt a movie with her eyes, and the only thing greater than her talent was her ruthlessness. The two Hollywood legends met several times throughout their careers, with the most notable encounter reportedly taking place at a film industry dinner in the mid-1960s. According to several attendees, Davis spent the evening belittling servers, interrupting other speakers, and making snide comments about absinthe. Colleagues Ball, who was seated at a nearby table, reportedly declined Davis's invitation to join the group, telling the host, "I'd rather keep my skin on tonight." What particularly upset Davis in Ball's eyes was not only her famously sharp tongue, but also the way she used it as a weapon against those who couldn't fight back. Davis was known for berating makeup artists, costume designers, and young actors, driving them to tears, and sometimes demanding their dismissal if they didn't meet her exacting standards. Lucy once heard Bette yell at a young actress on the set next. A former Desilu employee recalled the poor girl had mispronounced a single word in a scene. Bette spent 5 minutes tearing into Davis in front of the entire crew, asking if she learned to read in a reform school. Lucy was so disgusted that she complained to the director about allowing such behavior. What particularly upset Ball about Davis's behavior was that it came from someone who was truly incredibly talented. Unlike some difficult stars who compensated for limited abilities with outrageous personalities, Davis possessed legitimate talents, which in Ball's view made her behavior all the more inexcusable. Lucy felt that truly great people should lift others up, not tear them down, her friend explained. "When you reach the top, you have a responsibility to be better, not worse," she often said. Despite her distaste for Davis' behavior, Ball maintained professional respect for her contributions to cinema. When Davis appeared on a television special honoring women in entertainment, Ball attended, but reportedly asked not to schedule any direct interactions between them. The friend explained that Lucy was not afraid of Betty. She saw no point in spending time with someone who took pleasure in tormenting others, no matter how talented, while Davis represented raw talent, ruined by cruelty. Ball's next difficult coworker embodied something she found equally disturbing: an emotional detachment that extended to family. "Oh, sorry. My hands tremble when I am with you." Barbara Stanwyck, the ice queen who abandoned her son. Barbara Stanwyck is one of Hollywood's most respected actresses, a four-time Oscar nominee known for her versatility and professionalism. Her strong, straightforward on-screen presence made her perfect for everything from black and white films to westerns. But according to people close to Lucille Ball, Stanwyck's emotional detachment wasn't just a character on screen. It was a defining trait of hers. Off-screen one that deeply worried Ball. Lucy once said Stanwyck scared her, a former Desilu executive revealed. Barbara, she said, was like a statue you never dared touch. Perfect, polished, and completely cold. The two actresses had worked together briefly in the early days of Desilu Productions, and Ball reportedly came away from the experience baffled by Stanwyck's ability to switch emotions on and off so easily. By various accounts, Stanwyck would be sobbing during a dramatic scene, then immediately jump into discussing lunch options as soon as the director called cut, without any prior emotion. Lucy was an actor who relied on raw emotion, the executive explained. Found Barbara's approach almost inhuman, like watching someone playing the role as a human being rather than a real one. What really cemented Ball's negative view, however, was Stanwyck's relationship, or lack thereof, with her adopted son, Dion. According to Hollywood insiders, Stanwyck and her then-husband, actor Rex Harrison, adopted Dion in 1932. After their divorce, Stanwyck raised her son as a single mother, but their relationship reportedly deteriorated as he grew older. By most accounts, Stanwyck eventually cut off contact with her son completely, a decision that Ball, as a devoted mother, found puzzling. Lucy couldn't understand how anyone could turn their back on their child. A longtime friend said she often said, "No matter what problems you have with your children, they're still your children. Leaving is not an option." This view reflects Ball's own life. Despite being divorced from Desi Arnaz, the two remain actively involved in their children's lives and maintain a good relationship for their sake. The idea that Stanwyck might cut off her son so completely struck Ball as a fundamental emotional flaw. She played strong women, but in real life she made people cry, including her own family. Ball told a friend after running into Stanwyck at an industry event in the 1970s. While Stanwyck's emotional distance puzzled Ball, her next difficult companion represented something she found even more disturbing: a chaotic behavior that ranged from eccentric to dangerous. "I wouldn't even stoop to retaliate against an eccentric character like you." Vivian Vance. Friendship overcame wounds. This is perhaps the most shocking name on Lucille Ball's list. After all, Ball and Vivian Vance eventually formed a close friendship that lasted until Vance's death in 1979. Their characters, Lucy Ricardo and Ethel Mertz, created one of television's most beloved female friendships. But according to multiple sources close to both women, the early years of their relationship were far from friendly, but filled with jealousy, insecurity, and genuine dislike, which sometimes erupted into bitter confrontations. Lucy and Vivian's friendship was real, but so were the wounds. Former writer who worked on I Love Lucy in the early seasons revealed they argued like sisters, meaning they played dirty and knew exactly where to aim. Trouble began almost immediately after Vance was cast as Ethel. According to multiple sources, Ball initially worried that Vance, who at 42 was only 2 years older than Ball, but playing a significantly older character, was too attractive for the role. This concern reportedly led to the infamous contract clause requiring Vance to maintain his weight throughout the film, a condition that understandably caused resentment from the very beginning of their professional relationship. Vivian felt humiliated. A friend who knew both actresses explained, "Here she was having her biggest career breakthrough, and this other actress was telling her she had to be less attractive or she would be fired. It was a terrible way to start a working relationship." The tension wasn't just one-sided. According to multiple sources, Vance may have also taken direct aim at Ball, especially in the show's early years. She reportedly called Ball a nasty old woman and complained about Ball's controlling personality on set. A heated argument reportedly broke out when Vance felt Ball was deliberately trying to steal attention during one of her few prominent moments in an episode. Vivian stormed into Lucy's dressing room after rehearsal and accused her of stealing the scene. A crew member who witnessed the incident said she called Lucy controlling, jealous, and old. Lucy countered that Vivian should be grateful she still had a job. Things quickly turned sour. What sets this relationship apart from the others on Ball's list is that it eventually developed into a genuine friendship. As the two women matured and the show continued to succeed, mutual respect gradually replaced their initial hostility. They realized that they were stronger together than apart, the friend explained. Lucy grew to appreciate Vivian's talent and loyalty, and Vivian realized that Lucy's perfectionism was about creating the best show possible, not about controlling herself. By the 1970s, the two had developed a close bond that lasted until Vance's death from bone cancer in 1979. Ball was devastated by the loss, suggesting their relationship had changed dramatically from its difficult early days. Lucy never forgot how Vivian called her controlling, jealous, and old. A longtime friend who knew both women said, but she also never forgot how Vivian stood by her through her divorce from Desi when so many others in Hollywood turned their backs. The friendship was real, but so was the damage they caused each other along the way. Tallulah Bankhead, uncontrollable and dangerous. Tallulah Bankhead was one of the most colorful figures in 20th century entertainment. A glamorous actress known for her deep voice, open sexuality, and eccentric behavior both on and off stage. Her wit and eccentric personality made her a favorite among audiences who appreciated her unconventional style. Behind the scenes, according to those who worked with her, Bankhead's wild behavior was not only entertaining, but also unpredictable, disruptive, and sometimes dangerous. Lucille Ball found this out firsthand when Bankhead appeared as a guest on the Lucy Desi Comedy Hour in 1957. According to multiple crew members, what should have been a simple cameo role turned into a production nightmare. Tallulah was chaotic, vulgar, and often drunk on set, according to a former Desilu production assistant who witnessed filming. Lucy auditioned her because she was a big name but regretted every minute of it. She wasn't just wild. She was toxic. The problems reportedly began during rehearsals when Bankhead arrived in a state of marked ill health, unable to remember her lines and prone to straying from the script, improvising inappropriately in a way that would have been inappropriate for a 1950s family television show. She would suddenly swear or make sexual innuendos between takes, according to the production assistant. This was the 1950s. You couldn't say that on television. The censors would have had a heart attack. More troubling than her language was Bankhead's unpredictable behavior. According to multiple sources, she would sometimes wander off in the middle of a scene, disappear into the dressing room for unexplained breaks, or engage in unscripted physical contact with other actors, ruining their performances. Desilu's producers reportedly described her as uncontrollable and dangerous after she nearly dropped an expensive camera during a particularly chaotic moment on set. After the episode ended, Lucy told Desi, "Never again," the production assistant insisted. She said that working with Tallulah was like trying to orchestrate a storm, impossible, and likely to end in disaster. What particularly upset Ball about Bankhead's behavior was how it affected everyone else involved in the production. While Bankhead was having what she considered fun, crew members had to work longer hours to accommodate her erratic personality. Other actors struggled to maintain performances around her interruptions, and the entire production was in danger of going over budget. Lucy had no patience for people who considered their own entertainment more important than the livelihoods of others, a former colleague explained. She built Desilu on professionalism and respect for the production process. Tallulah represented everything she despised, talent wasted on complacency. While Bankhead's chaotic unprofessionalism irritated Ball, her next difficult colleague embodied something she found equally irritating, a tendency to fly into a rage when provoked. "Oh, that bitch." She was becoming impossible, simply impossible. Ava Gardner. Hollywood saw her sexy. Lucy saw her wild. Ava Gardner was one of the most beautiful women to ever grace the silver screen, a stunning actress whose captivating looks and voluptuous figure made her a global sex symbol during Hollywood's golden age. Her stormy relationships with men like Frank Sinatra and Howard Hughes only added to her mystique. Behind the glamorous exterior, according to those who knew Lucille Ball, there was a woman capable of astonishing cruelty, especially to those she deemed unworthy. Lucy thought Ava was one of the cruelest people in Hollywood, a longtime friend of Ball's revealed. Ava, she once said, not only burned bridges, but also danced on the ashes and laughed while they still smoldered. Ball's assessment was based on countless encounters during their careers at MGM and beyond. According to multiple sources, Gardner was notorious for her treatment of assistants, makeup artists, and other support staff, frequently berating them in public, making impossible demands and making fun of their discomfort. Lucy witnessed Ava make a young wardrobe assistant cry because her dress was too tightly pressed. A former studio employee recalled, "The poor girl was apologizing and trying to fix it when Ava looked at her and said, 'You can't fix incompetence with more incompetence.'" Lucy stood nearby and was furious, then called the girl into the dressing room and told her not to take it to heart. What particularly angered Ball was an incident reported in the mid-1960s when Gardner allegedly called her a clown at an industry event. According to several witnesses, Gardner spoke loudly enough to be overheard, seemingly unconcerned or perhaps hoping that the insult would reach Ball. Lucy didn't mind the insult at all, her friend explained. She was confident in her success. What disgusted her was the casual cruelty, the idea that Ava would go out of her way to hurt someone just because she could. This incident seemed to confirm Ball's earlier view that Gardner's beautiful appearance hid an evil soul. According to people close to Ball, she told a friend that Ava not only burned bridges, she also danced on the ashes. What particularly worried Ball about Gardner was how the industry continued to tolerate her behavior because of her extraordinary beauty, a situation Ball found both predictable and sad. Lucy once said that if Ava had been born normal, she would have developed a personality, the friend recalled. Instead, her appearance means she never has to be kind, caring, or even interesting, and after decades of enjoying that privilege, she has lost the ability to be any of those things. While Gardner's willful cruelty is disconcerting to Ball, her ultimate and perhaps most surprising enemy is someone much closer to home, her co-star. We can recognize ourselves. Shelley Winters transformed from a blonde bombshell in the 1940s into a revered actress who won 2 Oscars. Her acting talent was undeniable, earning her critical acclaim and a place in Hollywood history. But in real life, Winters was known for something else entirely, according to many sources: violent outbursts, public confrontations, and an inability to control her temper, making her one of the most feared women in Hollywood. Lucy saw Shelley as a storm in a dress. A writer who worked with Ball in the 1970s revealed, she often said, "You never know which version you're going to see, calm or storm." Ball's assessment was based on several meetings with Winters throughout their careers, including a particularly notable incident at a Hollywood fundraiser in the late 1960s. According to several witnesses, Winters became angry when he felt he was not being properly recognized at the event. What followed was described by one attendee as a public meltdown of epic proportions. Winters allegedly yelled at organizers, threw drinks, and caused such a ruckus that some guests left early. Ball, sitting at a nearby table, reportedly turned to her companion and simply said, "That's why I said no when they asked if I wanted to sit with Shelley." More troubling than her public behavior were reports of Winters' treatment of industry professionals behind the scenes. According to multiple sources, she once threw a drink at a Desilu executive because he suggested a minor script change on a project. She didn't just object, she became angry. A former producer who witnessed the incident recalled, "One minute they were chatting casually about a shoot. The next, the poor man was wearing her cocktail hat. Lucy was furious not only because of the disrespect, but because the CEO had been humiliated in front of her team. What frustrates Ball about Winter's behavior is that it often seems more calculated than truly uncontrollable. Some observers have noted that Winter's outbursts often occur when she is not getting her way, or when she is not being given enough attention, suggesting that her emotional reactions are tactical in nature. Lucy has a theory about Shelley. The author explains. She believes Shelley realized early on that if she caused enough chaos, people would eventually bend to her will just to end the tragedy Lucy hated. Any form of manipulation, but this one was especially blatant and insulting. Despite her distaste for Winter's behavior, Ball maintained a professional relationship with her, even appearing at some of the same events. According to friends, Ball's approach was simple. I kept a safe distance and always made sure someone stood between us. While Winter's emotional volatility disconcerted Ball, her next enemy represented something she found even more disturbing, a willful cruelty disguised as a subtle sensuality. But I feel scared when I put on shoes and feel safe when I put my feet on the ground.